Welcome to the Hobby Chop Podcast. This is our second episode. You got me, Big Ken, Zip, and Tyler. I hope you're enjoying this new segment, this new podcast, and what we're doing here. If you are, please like, please subscribe, uh, drop some uh, messages down below. We've got our Facebook group. The Hobby Chop Facebook group. Jump in there. We're hoping to get people in there, drop some listener questions, and we can start a new segment here on that as well. But we're going to start out today. I'm going to toss it right over to Zip for some shout outs. What do you got over there, Zip?
Big shout out I want to give to the Cardboard Association. I think I can. I know Tyler's a little newer to the area as a whole, but I know Ken will be in fully agreement. We love that group. It's a Facebook group, CBA. You got Dan, Keith, Adam, Matt, and a ton of others up there, and they're just always good people. And they let us post our first video in their group, and it was a good reaction, and just hope to continue that. And I know Adam said he wanted to come on, which I know he was like, oh, I never had time, but he's like, I'll make time now to get on. So we'll have to have Adam on because it would be great to talk to him about like running that group with how active and like it's just a good group of people too. So I'd like to talk to him about running that Facebook group, and then maybe do a segment on Facebook groups as a whole and how they can be good, bad, and everything in between. So yeah.
What to look for, what to watch out for. And I know they have a big group over there in that CBA. Because I still go to shows and I still see people show up with, the hats or the shirts or whatever. And I thought I knew everybody in the group, and I'm still meeting new people
absolutely.
in the group. Yeah. So our first segment today, fellas, we're going to talk about PSA, right? And I'm going to start out with something that was a statement that they had put out, and I'm just going to read it, and then we're going to go from there. It's PSA customer update. Both to close 2024 and begin 2025, we have experienced a high volume of incoming submissions, which has resulted in a delay in our receiving process, the unboxing and system entry of delivered packages. Rest assured, we are diligently working to process all orders as efficiently as possible and meet each order's estimated turnaround time. Bulk and value service level orders are those primarily being impacted right now. We are currently increasing staffing in our receiving department to help alleviate the issue, while also bringing new technology online in the first quarter of 2025 that will help keep receiving times consistent going forward. To find out if your order has physically arrived at PSA, well, I don't need to go through that. But anyways, so they're saying, look, we're getting behind over here. We're inundated with orders coming in. We don't have enough people to process the orders. And I personally have been complaining about them for months. So I just want to say, and for whatever reason, I don't know if there are certain people that get different treatment than others. So this is kind of really what we're going to talk about today. So for me, I know as much as I've complained about them, I'm actually pretty excited about my orders and how they've been being processed, over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I know, Jordan, you do a lot of grading, but you go through PC Sports Cards to grade your cards. You don't send them in yourself. Like I prep them, package them, ship them off myself. I'm fully responsible for my stuff. So just if you have, when your packages through PC Sports Cards arrived at PSA, because we would think, right, that if you're going through like a big submitter, your stuff should probably get processed faster than just some guy like me who is sending my stuff in. So just give us an update of when your stuff got there and where it's at now.
Yeah, so I actually have a submission that is in the last stage right now that actually an order I had sent out uh after it. Let me get the exact dates. So this one in the last stage, if you guys remember the old PSA, there was like QA1 and QA2. Now I think there's just QA if you go on your own, right, Ken?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the
It just goes research and ID, grading, assembly, and
yep.
then complete. That's it.
Yeah, I just want to differentiate it. So through PC Sports Cards, when you're in your own profile for grading, they still have QA1 and QA2. So for purposes of this discussion, I have one that's in QA2. Um, it went into research on 11/25. It's now 1/21. However, and that's 28 cards. This one order. I had a 26 card order that is already through PC Sports Cards. It's active right now. Auctions already listed, and it was at PSA and Research and ID on 12/3, and then it popped on 1/6. So that's really quick. So there's a difference between those two, which I don't really know why or why not. But I also have like a ton of other. Here's a 44 card order, and let me see where we're at for that one. PSA had received it. It was in Research and ID on 12/26. It's QA1 now on 1/21. So I'm not mad at that at all, right? I see Tyler's face, so I'm curious to hear what you think of those numbers and stuff. Because that one order is kind of a little bit longer, but other than that, like I couldn't ask for better turnaround time, from PSA. All right, right.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, right, a little different than both of you all. I don't grade near as much. Mine is
Mm-hmm.
more of if it's probably a $200 card and up that I get raw, that's when I consider grading. Um, just to try to minimize my ability to win or lose on a card,
Hmm.
just from a personal strategy perspective. What I do find interesting as far as the amount of time and the backup that PSA came out with the statement is all of the different working theories out there of why that is. Jordan, what I would be interested in yours is that order that's been there longer. Is it a mix of like
Mm.
older cards and modern cards?
Yeah, I can go in there and explain that a little bit. So, for example, that 44 card order that's been really fast that I just mentioned in QA1, talking most of that's 2024 Topps Chrome update, like schemes stuff, and that's flying through. So, to your point, that 28 card order, we're looking at uh, early 2000s and 90s Jordan.
Yeah, so that's something I've heard Ken allude to, but it's something I for sure subscribe to. As if I do send an order, I do try to separate those type of things, and just bank on you know that older stuff that might require a little more research or a little more comparative work by the grader. That's gonna take longer,
Yep.
and I just kind of bake that into my plan. The other interesting stuff that's been out there is what is the impact of the GameStop relationship, as well as the influx of TCG to PSA, because that's way up. Now I do know I'll give credit to the Sports Card Investor crew. I think Jeff Wilson reached out to Nat Turner directly, and they confirmed that it wasn't due to the TCG. But what I do find interesting on the GameStop piece is, I think we've heard some positive and negative stuff on the GameStop. I know Ken and I are in a chat where uh, a friend of ours completely got a card swapped, and now he's dealing with how to get the right card back and return the card that isn't his. But I know a lot of folks have seen really quick turnaround times with the GameStop stuff. Like I've heard people as little as 17 days on a standard order. So I I wonder if that strategic relationship, if are those GameStop orders jumping any lines, and if so, Um, does that play into what has occurred and why the statement's out there? That's just me kind of guessing, and I'm not the only one who's guessed that, but that's a possibility.
I do know with my orders. And I've got
And
my
this is from
order,
a personal account. This is
my
your.
personal
This is
account, my
Ken's
order
account.
history,
Yeah.
and I want to mention this because I had two orders. One that was uh three orders. Two orders. So I order in July and an order in August, and both of those orders had a bunch of cards that were older WNBA 98, 99, 2000 mixed in. And those orders, the July, and I talked about this a few times, the July and August orders, I did not get those back until November. And those also had some football cards in them that I was really hoping to get those cards back. And then I put another order in October 17th that had again some of those WNBA cards in there, and that order did not get released to December 31st is when that order was completed, right? So now moving forward, all the stuff I'm doing is all modern stuff. Everything that I'm sending out, nothing too old at all. Like one card I'll mention, and I've sent them in these December 1st to the 15th special and December 16th to the 31st special, and there was one value plus. So November 25th, actually, I get that out. That was a 10-day turnaround. So December 11th, January 14th, December 11th, January 14th, December 23rd is in assembly right now. December 23rd in assembly. January 16th is in grading, and January 16th is in research and ID. So that January 16th in grading is just one card. So that is also a 10-day. So since I started sending all my modern stuff, I haven't seen any delay in anything. But as soon as I put something older in there, like a older WNBA card or something like that, all of a sudden it just starts that orders, it will just start dragging.
Yeah, I think that may make sense. And Tyler, as Ken was just mentioning, I mean, honestly, Ken, it sounds like a lot of yours are kind of going really quick. So
they're going quick. And I tell you what, I was talking to Jonathan Homer Sports Cards today, and the same thing. He was saying that his December stuff is already in assembly, which my December stuff is already in assembly.
yeah.
And I know they put the statement out. So and I would have to think both these bulk orders, these specials, December 1st to the 15th specials, like I would have thought those would be the first one affected on the grading on what they put their statement out, and it seems to be just cruising right along.
Okay. So overall, I would say, other than if we're sending off some oddball stuff here or there, it's pretty much going normal in our personal experiences. And we're talking from literally the largest PSA subber in PC Sports Cards. At least that's what their Instagram proclaims. And a personal account.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do notice too that all my orders that come back quickly, they all ship, even though I ship them to California, they all ship back out of New Jersey. So those cards, I think they go to California and then they get shipped to New Jersey and they get graded there and then shipped back to me from New. And this is what I think. I mean, I don't know, and I think probably a lot of that modern stuff is being done in New Jersey. Now, the ones that had the older WNBA cards that shipped out of California, so those were being graded out there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to make too, because I have no idea, right? And then that makes me even think more, because PC Sports Cards is in Long Island, so you would think a large account like that could literally like just have, just if they wanted to. I don't think they would, but like they could drop off like once a week.
Drive over the bridge.
Yeah, like so. I would hope they're doing that. I mean, obviously that's way above me or anything like that, but that just makes me think that.
Well, a big part of that is due to staffing, right? I think a lot of the older stuff goes to veteran employees who grade, and so that's your traditional California staff, where
It's more
new,
from their time period or because of their experience.
their experience, but just the New Jersey site's still new, right? So they staffed it up from the ground. So the first thing they're going to train is, probably modern. So I'm more interested if, I don't know if anybody's heard it, but when they're going to allow shipping directly to New Jersey. Now you can do drop off in New Jersey on on a large card, but I'm curious when they're going to start actually having certain people shipped to New Jersey.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you think this could be a good transition to kind of just? I mean, I know we all have our own opinions on grading card companies and all that as a whole. Maybe we could each just go around and kind of explain why we just focused on PSA, right? Like, I mean, obviously they had the news and stuff, but why is PSA so integral to everything that we do?
You know what? I think personally, uh, it comes down to the price of the slab. So a lot of those cards I'm reselling. So I obviously, if I'm going to get them graded, I'm going to get the most out of it. We're going to talk about timing in the market a little bit later, which is super important. Um, I heard a lot of people say, look, you want to be the first of the market with a card, send it to SGC, get it back in a week and just put the card right out to market, which is true, And I know a lot of people do it, but there's a lot of people too that would rather see that card in PSA, would rather buy that card in PSA and know in the long run. And again, I'm talking about all modern stuff. I'm not talking about old anything, vintage or anything like that, but all modern stuff. I mean, in the long run, it's going to sell and resell better in a PSA slab. Just my opinion from what I've seen in the hobby. And
I would almost say like a lot of that's not even opinion. If I mean we got Tyler, our data guy, but like who would back that up? I'm sure 120%. But Ken, how about we talk about the slabs aside from that? Like, what is your opinion? Just as like in general, as it's a product rather than the resale value. Because I'm curious because like
you're putting me in a corner. I'm going to tell you the truth. I hate how the SGC slabs look.
Okay.
I really do. And I'm telling you what, I have 21 cards coming back from SGC, and I'm probably going to get some hate on this, right? But I sent the order out to PSA and they sent 11 cards back of this WNBA, and with this, I think it was N6. Like it was they weren't big enough, or it was a size thing. It was a size issue with the. And I've had this before. I send an older card out, it comes back and it says, "Oh, it didn't qualify for the right size." Right. So the next day, I put it in a package. I send it to SGC, and it comes back graded in a week. Right. So I don't understand how PSA has a problems with some of these older cards with the size, and then I send them to SGC, who is right. I mean, collectors universe owns that, so you'd think they would have the same standards for something, but it's not. I send it right back. So
Yeah, to answer that question, I think part of that is because on a lot of those cards, PSA might have established the standard that they weren't going to grade this if it measured this way. So then now they're back into that corner where SGC might have made a different decision pre-collectors buying them. Personally, if I'm trying to flip a card, sell a card, PSA all day.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, and I do more of the vintage stuff than either of you do, right? So that's a different where it's closer in the market, but the grades also they vary, right? There's a little bit of inconsistency in that as well. So if I think a card is really strong vintage wise, it goes to PSA for value. If I think a card, is an on the fence card, I might go to SGC for value because I could get a better grade, which then actually might be the best value play. Aesthetically, I'm the exact opposite of Ken. I love the SGC slab. I think it's the
because you're a
best slab.
vintage guy.
Well, just even any, I just think it's the best slab to
Present.
display
Yeah.
present for because I like the black background, and so yes, for my Reds PC vintage that's never going to be sold, I will crack something out of a PSA slab if that's how I got it, and I will move it to an SGC slab just so I have uniformity in my collection. And on the flip side, I don't want to not touch on BGS, and I know Jordan will probably have an opinion here, but uh, as far as if I truly had to choose like who I would grade with just for information purposes, it would be BGS every time because at least when I get the darn card back, I know why.
Yeah.
Like there is no guesswork. I know what they're going. I know why they got a result.
Other than what did this grader see for my card to give the corners as 7? Other than that,
That's
but
true.
no, I hear you because like I can break it down really quick. I've thought about this. I use PSA because it's undoubtedly the best ROI for most of the things that I use that I sell. Right. There's that, and then SGC has the best customer service, which I think is well documented just about everywhere. And then my personal favorite label is Beckett, and I love that they go from that silver with a 9 and under, and then the gold, and then the black. I love that. I love that concept, and I love the subgrades. And then the slab material itself, that hard plastic, I think CGC is undoubtedly the best if you've ever held one. It's so clear, and it is so like just like solid. It's so solid. And all that being said, I'm not sending a card to anywhere else besides PSA probably with their ugly label and product that feels like it feels like a glorified card saver one. Okay. So, but that's just where we're at because also something that happened very recently that is very significant is a PSA 10 gold prism of Lamar Jackson 2018 gold prism outsold a black label gold like within the same week in December. And I'll get the numbers exactly because I know Tyler, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a big deal, and it's just furthermore on how far Beckett has let their just company slip. It's awful.
Do you guys, while you're looking that up, do you guys put any thought into upcharges? Like if you're grading a card and if it's going to PSA, it's going to cost you a certain amount because of the value of the card versus you can get away with a lot more sending it to SGC, and I'm pretty sure BGS too, that you don't get hit with all the upcharges.
A lot slips through the cracks too, though, I think, at least my experience. I don't know about you. I have those numbers too.
Go ahead with the numbers, Jordan.
Yeah. So the black label on December 22nd of, gold prism out of 10, 2018 prism Lamar did 43 grand. And then do you guys know the sale of the PSA 10?
No.
Why don't you guys take a guess?
52.
Tyler?
65.
Is 54.5. So it outsold the black label by 11.3K, which is crazy. If you look back at the whole and let me one more time, we have the PSA 10 went on Alt and the BGS black label went on Fanatics.
That's even more surprising because I would have assumed Fanatics would have outsold Alt.
I absolutely agree.
So, yeah, because to me the black label is still the premier, right? Like if I had to choose between which one I pay more, it would be for the black label. Like if two cards are put in front of me. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, the other thing about BGS real quick is that they're just not grading that many cards, and so that's part of what it is. I think for the first time they fell out of like the top 5 most graded cards at the end in December, I believe, or something along those lines. I don't quote the exact statistic, but to Ken's question about the upcharging, I've certainly thought about it, right? Because if I thought I had a chance at a BGS 10, I certainly would on a really big card would probably take the gamble to BGS and risk it just because first I don't get the upcharge, so depending on how big the card is, that might be the difference in the value So there's potentially that. But if I really think it has a legit chance at a BGS 10 or a black label, I would go that route
Mm.
on a super big card, because that's the only way that I think on a super big card, which your goal is to set the new comp. It's not like moving the smaller cards. That's the way you could distinguish yourself and make your card worth more and really actually get a true premium out of it. So I could certainly see going that way for the right card for
Which is
sure.
interesting because it absolutely contradicts the Lamar Jackson data.
Yeah, I would say that's an outlier though. I mean, you look at any other black label, they still they outperform the PSA 10 in a true an actual black
Mm.
label. So,
Yeah.
but it'd be interesting to see what happens for future comparable sales for sure.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to be paying attention to, considering how significant that is, that like of a card that is in the modern football world, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a
Mm.
very important card.
I know I had a number of PC cards that I had that were all raw, that I knew a lot of them would have been upcharged. So I sent them all to SGC and PC cards, and I did that because I just didn't want to pay an upcharge, and I just wanted to have them slabbed. They weren't cards I'm ever going to sell, or I don't plan on selling anytime in the near future, but I just wanted to have them, slabbed and graded.
Yeah, and what's so great about SGC is if you ever choose to put them in like a PSA slab, you can literally take a butter knife and crack it out in like 5 seconds, because that's how easy a SGC slab is to crack. You literally just right on the seam and it's gone.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about timing the market, and I'm bringing this up now because we're seeing that a couple of cards have sold for astronomical, Jaden Daniels cards that sold for astronomical amount of money, where we know that it's not sustainable. There's probably other cards are not gonna, everybody's not gonna, that didn't create the new price of these cards. But just having right now, after this huge win that he had this past weekend, where all of a sudden his card values are just climbing and climbing. And I just, before I throw it out there, I just want to say I'm super excited, because a lot of the Jaden Daniels stuff, when it came in, I sent it right out, like to get the graded, that those early Costco Don Russ boxes, and then the Don Russ itself, anything that came Jaden Daniels, I sent out, and I've gotten 90 to 95% of those cards back. And other people who have done that too are now, they're super excited watching these prices go up. And I can't imagine, and we're going to talk a little bit about the condition of those Prism cards a little bit later, but I can't imagine the people who PSA is probably being inundated with 10-day turnarounds of a lot of these, Jaden Daniels Prism cards, because people want to just get these cards right to the market.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, there's probably not a more important week all year for football cards to time the market than this week.
Yeah.
And um, I'll take you on a journey of a few cards that I kind of dove in today, because I know they're cards that just are outrageous. One, I'll start with the Josh Allen Optic base PSA 10 rookie card. So that card in the playoffs in 2024 was a $300 card. And then I looked at it again in what I would define as the dip. So March, April, that card became 230. And actually during the summertime, where you would have thought the card might have propped back up a little bit, it dropped again to $230. Current comp on that card is 405. If you have a Josh Allen base optic rookie PSA 10, sell it as fast as possible. Because it's never seen that level, and it's up $105 year over year. Move that card. The other, and the pop count on that card is 2,311. So you can always find one to replace it if it's a PC card. The other card that I would, before I get into the Jaden Daniels market, is the Mahomes. I would define Mahomes this week as really interesting case, and I would divide it into, if I had 9 Mahomes cards, I would say my plan would be to sell 3 this week. If he wins, sell 3 more next week. And if he wins the Super Bowl, the final 3 there. I would take some profit today, and the card I will use is Mahomes' Optic rated rookie PSA 9, pop count 4,263. That card in the 24 playoffs, $425. During the normal dip, March, April, 375 to 400. Summertime, it popped back to 425, 450. That card currently is about a $525 card. Sales upward of 6. And I've seen a million people ask $600 for the card. If I had those in those 9 cards, I would sell those. And then I would just move it based on pop count and rarity, or your own personal finance going into it. And then I think the final path to go down is the Jaden Daniels market. And the one thing that I will say about the Jaden Daniels market, if you have it, sell it as fast as humanly possible, because I'm going to give you the CJ Stroud silver journey, just like I did with those other cards first, and then you can kind of project the potential Jaden Daniels market. So Stroud wins the playoff game last year in 24. Early PSA 10 silvers, $2,000. By March, they're down 50% to $1,000. In the summertime, where it should have ramped, the card actually went down again to $925. Today, that card's $400. It's down 80% from its open, and down another 60% from just when I think it probably found its level, during the dip in the summer. And that's where I think it's important to touch on 23 Prism gemmed at a really high rate. It's like 49%. So far, early stats, 22% is the gem rate on 24 Prism. So if you look at Jaden Daniels' first 3 sales on his PSA 10 silver, $1,950 is the average. Sounds like we're playing CJ Stroud all over again. So if you just kind of project that moving forward, and even, account for the fact that the gem rate is lower and it's harder to get a 10, that it may not go down as much, even if it just moves down half as much, that card in 2 months is going to be down around $1,200. The summertime, it's down probably slightly or pretty flat. And next year, when Jaden Daniels is not the newest, greatest thing, the card probably finds level down 60% from its peak at around $800. So as soon as you get a Jaden Daniels PSA 10 anything, sell it as fast as humanly possible.
What do you forecasting? He wins this weekend, right? They go in and beat the Eagles. Does that card go higher?
I don't think so, because I think the fact is it's first to market with those first 2 or 3. And if you look at the Strouds last year, the first 3 did exactly a little over $2,000 to $2,100. And then immediately the 4th sale was $1,500. The 5th sale was $1,420. So it was an immediate move down. So what? Let's say I think right now there's 7 PSA 10 silver Jaden Daniels that have been graded. 3 of them have already been sold. So there's only 4 left as of today. So let's say another one gets into the market. It may actually remain flat if he wins again, but I don't think it certainly goes up.
And do you think it goes down if he loses?
I think it starts to, it's the next sale will just be a slight downtick and a slight downtick. Again, I don't think it'll find as fast a floor from 2K to 1K as the Stroud did, but just because of the gem rate. But I certainly think it'll find a floor to somewhere in the $1,200 to $1,400 range pretty fast, and you'll be able to kind of ride that market for most of the summer, so you can still buy raw at $300 to $400 and make money. That's a possibility, and you actually might even be able to make money on a 9. It'll be interesting to see what the first 9 sells for.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of them, I think. I mean, I've looked at a number of these cards for grading and realized they put the black in the corners on the back, and not only that, I mean, I have here in my office not Jaden Daniels, but I have 7 silver prisms of quarterbacks. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Drake May, and every single one of those has little dimples on the front of it. The black, like you're like, oh, maybe it could gem, maybe it couldn't gem, but then you look at the front of it and you see those little prism silver dimples, in the cards. And I don't think I've gotten one card here where I'm looking at saying, wow, this is a great card. It could gem. Like every single one of them does not look good. They all look like 9s or lower.
Actually, three nines have sold. One sold again today. Didn't look at that earlier, but the first 9 sold for 420. Then a 9 sold for 500 best offer, and it did 675 today. So we've seen 3 9s sell so far.
The one thing I would say, because I definitely don't think Stroud and Daniels are a 1-to-1 comparison. I think they're very similar, but Stroud also didn't come in and knock off the 1 seed that had like 15 wins at their own. I really think we're in uncharted territory with Daniels. There has not been a rookie quarterback season like this. And I also still would sell, like, don't get me wrong, because I think the unknown is more daunting than the optimists may believe. But I also, in the same respect, think we've never seen this ever. Like it's very special. So I don't know. I think I would just tell people go with your gut, because I can see it going either way. Like Ken said, if they win, I mean, the mania will probably be crazy. You have a rookie quarterback with a squad that, I mean, there are guys on it, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't really high expectations at all, and he's put the cape on.
Well, the Eagles are right now are favored. They're the team favored to win the Super Bowl through Vegas odds. So if they knock that team off, they just knocked off the team who was favored to win the Super Bowl, right, this past week. So now the odds are on Eagles, the best odds to winning the Super Bowl. So they knock them off too. Yeah, I would have to think there's some mania that's going to happen,
at least in the short term. At least,
yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here on a bunch of PSA, mostly PSA 10s of his cards of all different, through Don Russ. And you know how I know it's probably a good idea to sell? Because my mind is telling me, man, maybe you should just hold on to these cards and see where they go in a few weeks. And that usually is a sure sign that those cards are going to drop after next week.
It's an interesting spot, though, kind of like what Tyler said about, like, if you're buying some of his stuff raw to grade, I'd still do that, but I'd also still sell what I had. Like, I think you can do both, because it's just it's wild, right?
Yeah, and I think too they've overprinted Prism, like the Prism football. I think it's going to be completely overprinted, and I think the market is going to start getting flooded with a lot of the the pop counts. I mean, depending on the gem rate, right, the pop counts are going to be climbing very quickly.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I would, just to be honest, I would actually disagree with Jordan that it is a 1-for-1, because statistically Stroud had a better rookie season. And I think he had more hype pre-playoffs than he won a playoff game. So I think it is very much a 1-for-1, and that's how I would approach it.
I mean, but now it's not, though. Like I hear you up until then, sure, but that's like saying, like when we were talking off camera the other day of like Allen and Mahomes, what's the difference? MVPs and Super Bowls. Like Daniels is in the NFC Championship game. Stroud is not getting there in the AFC. I think like there's 3 dudes in front of him.
No, not long term for sure. I'm saying right now that their initial hype and what the numbers match up, and the hype of the moment of 24 versus today, I think will produce a very similar. I do think, to your point, that Daniels has a better long term path, and that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, and I do think with the gem rate and that being a factor, and the fact that it is the NFC Championship game, that does prop the Daniels market up a little bit higher than the Stroud market. And that's why, like, when I kind of put those numbers together, just for full transparency for yourself, you're all and the listeners, I basically took CJ Stroud's drops percentage wise in my projection, and I have them, and said Daniels is only going to drop, best case scenario, half of what Stroud did to,
Yeah.
maybe 60% of what Stroud did. And that's kind of how that's how I will approach it, from a buying perspective. And, I have a Jaden Daniels downtown that I'm going to pick up on Thursday before Ken and I fly to Atlanta
Yep.
that I secured right before the game. Uh, so if as long as the guy doesn't back out on me by the time I pick it up, um, so that'll be interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that'll be for sale, right?
it will be for sale
Yeah.
at Culture Collision,
Yeah.
along with I might put it in Ken's case right next to all of the other Jaden Daniels because it'll be the only Jaden Daniels card I have.
Yeah. So when we're looking at these playoffs and these teams coming in, and I know we touched on this a little bit last week, is there any other players going into this week, going into the AFC and NFC championship game on any of these teams that you're thinking, if just like we said, if you have Jaden Daniels, this is the week to sell it? Is there any other? Is Hurts or Barkley or Mahomes or Allen or like are we thinking, is now the time? Is this the week to bail on anybody? Is this the week to maybe grab a card or two of any of these players?
For me, I would bail on Josh Allen as fast as I could, just because I think the market has got to such a high number that I would just have to just take that and go. Mahomes, I would follow the strategy kind of I called out earlier, where I would split it up and take some profits and then try to play the long term game along the way. The interesting one to me that you brought up, and I didn't really dive into it when I looked earlier, but is the Saquon Barkley market, because that might be the one where this week could mean even more for it. It's already way up. Um, and this week might change that drastically. Like I do know for a fact that his PSA 10 optic, I think I'm just checking it right now. I believe it just did $145. And for his base optic, which is, for, as you all know, for running back is unheard of. And that's by far the biggest number I think it's ever done. So that kind of stuff, um, I would maybe try to move. But I think the most important with that number is not necessarily that card. If you have another Saquon Barkley that's low pop that hasn't comped, use that data when you go to pitch and sell that card, because that is going to mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where the way that I would approach it. Yeah, actually, it did 149.99 was the last 10 of the base optic.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's gonna depend on when you picked up a lot of stuff. Like if you bought some Barkley before the playoff run and you can move it at this and you want to go for it. Like obviously it's always your gut decision. Anyone who like I like, if anyone tries to tell you to do something, just research it yourself and figure it out. But like, yeah, if like I had bought Barkley before and I could make a percentage now, I would. Could you be missing out on some? Sure, but like it's just kind of mitigating risk at that point, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Like
I know
because
you and Tyler are quick movers. Like I know you wouldn't have picked up a Barkley and held on to it, right? If any of the card you pick up, you just move it. You move it out as fast as you get.
So let's talk about that. We talk about cards in general as a volatile market. What's has the highest volatility? Football cards week to week. So like, yeah, it's kind of a game of hot potato sometimes, unless it's something you want to hold on to. Like,
Yeah.
for example, Mahomes, like if you can buy him at a good price, do it. If like, and then if you can't get the number you want to sell it, don't. Because regardless of what happens with Mahomes, he's fine. Like right? Like not really a guy you have to worry about buying or selling, It's almost like the throw it in a box and if you need to sell something, sell it. Like so yeah, for Allen, like I have cards on auction like that when I sent to PC Sports Cards, I said, I was like, please, can you get these listed ASAP? And that's because I just wanted to make sure they sold before this inevitable. I actually wanted them sold before the Ravens game. So, and that didn't happen. That was a huge ask on them to get it up for where it's at now. So that's great. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you, Tyler, on the Allen stuff.
Yeah, the Mahomes. I think the biggest advice that I would do is that any high pop Mahomes you have, take that, sell it today, and immediately take that profit and flip it into a lower pop Mahomes. You really want to make money on the Mahomes market, and that's your goal outside of a PC. That's what you do today. Take the huge number that the PSA 9 Pop 4200 is doing, and sell the two of those you have and flip it in and put that towards buying a Prism Silver or a Optic Hollow, or as Jordan and I's favorite cards, the Select Field Level Prism.
Why are you giving it away? Why are you telling everyone?
That's fine. Go look. There's it doesn't. You can give it away. There's so few of them that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you got to find it and find someone who's willing to sell at what they have sold for. So yeah.
And it's funny. Ken was talking about quick moving, because as guilty as charged, Jordan and I move things at probably hyper speed. But it's interesting with Saquon. I have a card that's been a hold card for me that I picked up, and that is his blue press proof PSA 10, because it's a pop 17 and it's never sold in a PSA 10 for a long time. And now I'm starting to see some 9s that are selling upwards of $100. So as we are moving to Atlanta, I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to ask on this card.
Yeah.
Right.
I would
That's
love
the challenge.
And those cards are my favorite to auction. Instead of I get you can ask something.
Yeah.
That's that situation is why I love consigning cards, because you don't have a ceiling. I mean, I guess you don't have a ceiling. You can ask whatever you want, but at the end of the day, someone's paying that with the auction.
Well, if it doesn't go in Atlanta, it's gonna be the first card I send to PC Sports Cards under your suggestion, because it has to set a new comp, right? That's the only way that I'm going to maximize value on that card.
Yeah.
So, but that's a very good point, right? You either, with a rare card, you either have to find a way to set the new comp online, or you've got to just. I think the one advice with those kind of cards that I would give people, at a show, like if you're setting up at a show, know the numbers behind other cards.
Yep.
So that you can speak to it and explain it, and not get so focused on the direct comp to the card, right? To me, I will use the $150 optic base PSA 10 pop 2.5 million probably, compared to this card, when I try to, if somebody has interest of it and we get talking a number seriously.
I mean, that's tough too, because you're talking about a totally different gem rate, I assume, on those two cards, considering how sensitive the blue is going to be for the press. It's Don Russ, not optic, right? The press proof.
Yeah, the blue press proof. Yeah. That's why it's a pop 17, right?
And it's a color match because he's giant. So I mean, that's a great looking card. Yeah,
it is. Yep. And so, but that's the advice that I would give to people listening. And if you can take anything away from how to approach those type of things, Jordan makes a great point. Find the ways that you maximize it. Either get to a consignor with that kind of card, or make sure you have a really solid understanding of the data of other cards.
It's not easy. It's not easy to sell those cards, especially in person. It's not easy. I know I've had cards like that are low pop and no recent sales. And I've talked about these, where it used to be you could just make up your own price, and people had to kind of go with it, or look at comparable cards or players to try to come up with a price. Now it's like everybody who's buying this stuff is buying it to flip it. And if there's no recent sales, or there's no recent comps to base it off of, they'll even, and no matter how much they like the card and how good it looks, they'll just move on from it, because they know it's going to be a problem for them to try to sell it to somebody else. So until a public sale, or there's something you can refer to on there, there's a lot of people who will stay away from these cards.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to celebrate real quick because I just searched my Saquon Barkley, and yesterday an SGC 10 sold.
Oh, all right.
So-
Wait, hold up. Let's try to guess. Me and Ken will try to guess. Give us is there like a like if we're going off of no, it was 140 for his optic PSA 10, right?
Yep.
9. Oh,
No,
the optic PSA 10.
No,
that would be wild. That would be wild.
This is the press proof.
Out of Donruss, SGC 10 just sold yesterday.
All right, so we're gonna guess what the SGC 10 blue press proof did. What do you think, Ken? You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
No, you go first.
I would guess that the SGC 10 did 250.
I wouldn't be as high. I would probably be closer to 210, 215.
You're both high. It did 125.
Oh, wow.
But which is interesting because I said PSA 10 is a pop 17, SGC is a pop 8 and SGC 10. So you're talking, pop 25 total between the two. But I think that at least gives me a number to work off of, because now I can just apply the multiple that any other Barkley did between the SGC and the PSA, and I have a number.
Isn't SGC 10 usually like 75% of a PSA?
Yeah.
But don't you find that a little concerning too? Here's a guy that's just having like the season of his life, right? Just the season of his life that, was in the conversation, possibly MVP, right? And you would think that there would have been, that card would have had just a little bit more, rise to it at this point of the season, two games away from or 1 game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So I just compared an SGC 10 Barkley Optic rookie, and it did $100 compared to $150 in a PSA 10. So it's a 50% increase.
So that's like 66%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll multiply the 125 times 1.5, and that will be my price. Just for the listeners, that's how I'll get there. So
there you go.
So 190. If you want to.
So I see as a warning, we're at 52 minutes. We're gonna try to stay at an hour.
Yep.
Do we want to make some predictions for this?
Let's make some predictions. These games coming up this week. We've got Chiefs and Bills, and we have Commanders and Eagles. What say you, Mr. Tyler?
Well, I'm going to pick the Chiefs because I value my safety on a plane ride with Ken. No, I just think the Chiefs will figure out a way. They just continue to figure out a way to do it. I would say if Allen's going to have a chance, this is as good a year as any. But I'll go Chiefs and I'll go Eagles just because I think the experience and the total depth of the Eagles in what is probably going to be good conditions in Philadelphia this weekend. Home playoff game with the crazy Philly fans, they get it done, and we get a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl.
Zip.
I'm boring for a podcast content. I'm with you, Tyler. I was very impressed by it was the one play at the very end of the game in the Rams game when it just showed like the ceiling of how good the Eagles can be when Jalen Carter just blew up the O-line. Dude, just like I don't know, man. That's like Jaden Daniels has been so poised and he's been great and he beat Philly earlier, but I just think I just think it's Philly's game to lose, and for the hobby, hoping it's Daniels. That would make great noise. I wouldn't be mad if Daniels won, that's for sure. But I think Philly's gonna be there, and I think the Lions losing it didn't just feel like it that just wasn't supposed to happen. Doesn't it just feel like that, or is that just me? Like
we all love Dan Campbell, right? We all felt bad for this guy.
And how about Jahmyr Gibbs? That guy is a beast. Yeah. He's so good. Like he might be he's one of my favorite players to watch, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, the one thing that I would add about the Eagles, interesting enough, is they've won 2 playoff games, and AJ Brown has 3 catches for 24 yards in 2 playoff games. At some point, that part of the offense is going to go,
Yeah.
and the Commanders showed that they're going to get in a shootout with whoever they play, and if that part of the Eagles' offense goes with what Hurts and Barkley do, and Goddard and Smith, and the defense, the O line, it's a big task for Washington. But great
The
season.
Yeah, the defense for Philly is actually healthy
Yeah.
compared to the Lions, who they were already down a ton of people, and then didn't they lose like 3 guys during the game, including wasn't it like their number one DB,
Yeah.
like their
You,
number one?
you were next up at middle linebacker in their depth chart.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It's really tough to put it on. No, taking nothing away from the Commanders, but how many more guys could the Lions actually lose?
Yeah, you're right.
Tough.
All right. Well, I'm going to be a little different. And I'm going to say this too. In Philly, if the weather is just a beautiful day, Sunday afternoon with no snow and wind and rain and all that stuff, I'm going with the Commanders to win this. I'm going to keep that season alive for them. I'm going to root for the upset. And I'm going to hope that I hit as many parlays in this game as I did last week. And for the Chiefs, yeah, I am Chiefs Bills. Of course, I'm a Chiefs fan. You look right behind me. We're here in Arrowhead Stadium, and I am going to stick with my team. And I see a Commanders Chiefs, and I see Jaden Daniels hype just going out of control.
And then if he loses to Mahomes, it can't be held against him.
Even if he loses this week, it can't be held against him because that
agree.
organization is going to be dominating in the NFC for years to come. So they're a true. You can tell that they're a well-rounded team, and they got there very quickly. Like people expected with Washington, where we're drafting a new quarterback, it's going to take a few years. We're rebuilding, and all of a sudden they're in the NFC Championship game the first year. That speaks volumes for Daniels, the coaching, the ownership, the organization, and the players that want to play, right, and how they're playing. So I think it's going to be it's the beginning of a new culture, there in Washington, and I think they're going to be around for a very long time.
Perfect example of how confidence and calmness can be infectious.
Yeah.
Is what they are, I think.
So Tyler, you and I have mentioned we are going to be in Atlanta this weekend. We have a couple tables at Culture Collision. And if you are there, we are section A4, table 6 and 7. So almost right inside the front door. So if you're there at Culture Collision, come find us, come say hello. We'd be happy to chat with you guys.
Absolutely.
And I think
hope we bring some interesting stories and content back for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw up next to your buying sign. You should print out a hobby chop so people can get to that Facebook group that we need to grow.
There we go.
Yeah,
expand to the southeast.
Yes, go over to Facebook. I don't know if people still use Facebook anymore, but if you still use Facebook, go over there, look for the Hobby Chop podcast Facebook group, and join us. And if you're watching here on YouTube, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and leave some comments. Let us know what you think. I mean, we're out here, we're doing this. Let us know if you like what you hear. If there's something you don't like, tell us. If there's something you do like, tell us. Let us know. Let us know how you feel. Appreciate you guys for listening, and I appreciate you guys for being here, chopping up the hobby.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will we'll see everybody next week, unless we see anybody in Atlanta on the weekend. But if not, we'll be back next week for a brand new episode. Take care, guys.
Au revoir.
Thanks.